Welcome to Safe and Sound, sponsored by White Mountain Fire and Life Safety. Today on the show we have Morgan Brown, the City Attorney, and Justin Tregaskis, the Planning and Zoning Director with the City of Show Low, and Kirk Webb, the Community Risk Manager from Timber Mesa Fire and Medical District. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Good, good. I'm excited that you're here. We have lots to talk about. But first, before we start, I would like you just to tell us a little bit about what you do for the city.
Sure. My name is Morgan Brown. I'm the City Attorney for Show Low. I've been the full-time City Attorney for a little over 2 years. Prior to that, I did contract work with the city since 1996.
Oh, wow.
So I've been around a while with the city. And as a City Attorney, I basically help draft ordinances, contracts, resolutions, and just take care of the legal work for the City of Show Low.
Keep them out of trouble.
Try to.
Try to. And Justin, how about you?
Justin Tregaskis. I'm the Planning and Zoning Director. I've been with the city for almost 16 years now.
Oh, wow.
So a little bit of time. Originally
Yeah.
grew up down in southern Arizona, so familiar with the area even before we moved here. In the Planning and Zoning Department, we deal with everything that you see being built. So any new construction, whether it be homes or new commercial businesses, we deal making sure that all the building codes are being met, as well as all the zoning codes. So things like landscaping, parking, signage, that type of thing.
And we were booming, so you stay pretty busy.
We stay, especially this time of year, yes.
No, definitely. And Kirk.
Kirk Webb. Yeah, formerly with Lakeside Fire, now with our merged districts of Show Low, Lakeside, and Linden. I get to focus my efforts on public education, fire prevention, and outreach to the public. And so we're here to talk about all that fun stuff, that safety.
Yeah, and you do a good job. That's why
Thanks.
you're there. I know personally.
Yeah.
I've seen it. So I invited you guys on the show today to discuss fireworks. This show airs the whole month of July, and it just happens that that's the 4th of July, and then people from the Valley coming up like to bring their own little stuff. And you see it in the stores. They can sell them in the stores. So we wanted to talk about what the fire ordinances are, any changes in any state statutes or anything like that, or city changes. So I'll let you guys take it off from there.
Sure. Well, maybe I'll start and just give a little history of kind of where the fireworks code for the City of Show Low has evolved over the last few years. So you may know, up until about 5 years ago, fireworks of any kind in the state of Arizona were prohibited. We couldn't have any type of fireworks. And then about 5 years ago, the legislature enacted some codes where they indicated that certain permissible consumer fireworks were now allowed in the state of Arizona. And so the first, I guess, statute that the state enacted indicated that cities and towns could prohibit the use of fireworks, but not the sale of fireworks. Just kind of counterintuitive, but that's what the statute said. And in the county areas, they could not prohibit either the use or the sale unless we were in fire restrictions. So the City of Show Low enacted a fireworks code based on that state statute that prohibited the use of fireworks within the city limits. Then we thought some wiser minds prevailed down at the legislature, because then the statute was revised to indicate that the cities and towns could prohibit the use and the sale of fireworks. And we were excited and happy to make that change in our state code. As you know, we've dealt with a lot of major fires in this area, beginning with the Rodeo Chetasky to the Wallow Fire to even the San Juan Fire that was last year. So we felt like, since we're surrounded by forest, that the dangers were pretty evident in the City of Show Low, so we prohibited the use and the sale. And then this last year, the legislature kind of, in some ways, retreated back a little bit and indicated that these permissible consumer fireworks were now going to be allowed during certain times of the year. And I believe the sale starts, if I have it right, May 20th through July 6th. and then the use is June 24th through July 6th, and then also the dates are December 10th through January 3rd, I believe, and then December 24th through the 3rd. So you can sell them earlier than you can actually use them now under this state statute.
And who regulates that?
Well, each city or town under this new state statute is supposed to or can, it's may, it says in the statute, enacts a city code that says you can only use them during that time. If you don't do that, then these permissible consumer fireworks are allowed all year round. So the city of Show Low, back on June 2nd, we took the initiative to change our code to comply with this state statute and to enact those changes. And Justin, who's a little more familiar with what's allowed and what isn't allowed, could probably speak to that a little bit, but that's kind of a history of how we got where we are today. One other thing I'll just say is that counties can also prohibit the use during those certain periods of times. Before that, the state statute did not allow the counties to prohibit the use and sell at any time. So in some ways the statute is better because it allows counties to do that, but in other ways for the cities and towns we've gone back a little bit. So maybe it's a compromise to get where we are today. And just to finally finish up though, just to let everybody know that if we are in stage 1 fire restrictions, these fireworks are not allowed at all.
Just smart, especially where we live.
And it's important to note that on those stage 1 fire restrictions, they have to be declared by a state or federal agency. So that's something that we cooperate with the Forest Service and the different agencies around here in implementing those stage 1 fire restrictions. We've been fortunate so far this year in that the moisture levels and the temperature and the wind have stayed. Moisture levels have stayed up, the temperature and the wind have stayed down up until about this week. It seems to be getting warmer. So
yeah.
We're currently not in stage 1 fire restrictions. It may be something that will occur here in the future.
Well, and they just did a prescribed burn a couple weekends ago, the Forest Service did, in June.
Right.
I mean, when was the last time that happened? Ever?
Exactly.
Has it ever happened?
June? Probably not. June, for a long time.
No.
Yeah. The way that the statute is written, it essentially classifies 3 different types or groups of fireworks. We tend to use the word firework to just mean anything that you light a fuse and it does something. But with the state statute, they have 3 different groups. The first of those is a novelty item. And these are things like smoke bombs, those little snake things that you light and they make a big mess in your driveway, those types of things. Those are not regulated by this state statute or city code. Those are by state statute allowed. Then we have what is called a permissible consumer firework. Those are the types of things that are regulated by this legislation and that the city has taken these steps to enact the regulations that are allowed by the state statute. And those are things like the fountains, things that may throw up some kind of sparks or some different things like that, ground spinners, those types of things. So it is possible that you may see beginning July 3rd, those types of things being sold. Sometimes we get people saying, I saw fireworks for sale at the store, I thought they were illegal. And they really fall into those novelty item classifications rather than the actual consumer firework regulations. And then we have what is actually called a firework, and those are illegal. They were illegal before, they continue to be illegal, and those are things that go up in the air or that explode. So, bottle rockets, little black cats, those types of things people may have grown up with. Those are considered a firework and are still illegal by the state statute. So there was no change there.
Okay, and that's just obviously Arizona, because I know other states there, you can practically buy anything you want.
Yes, New Mexico's a little bit more lenient than we are
as
far as that type of thing goes.
Okay.
The other thing that we're seeing with this statute is that essentially the use and the sale of these consumer fireworks are permitted at any time during the year by the state statute unless cities, towns, or counties take an additional step. And there were some allowances for cities and towns to say, we're going to prohibit their use and we're going to prohibit their sale for the majority of the year. We cannot prohibit their use and sale during these limited time periods, and those were the ones that Morgan referred to earlier. There is that exemption that if we do go into the stage 1 fire restrictions, even if it is during those time periods when the use and sale would be permitted under the state statute, that cuts them off. They cannot use or sell during those time periods if we're in stage 1. So that becomes very critical to us in this area as to when those stage 1 restrictions are put in place.
Now, I know that in the previous years you go into the store and you see fireworks for sales, and they always have that, you know, you can buy them but you can't light them or anything like that. I mean, I'm sure that's going to change now, and it will possibly have the dates on them when you can use them and when you can't. And mention about fire restrictions, it's void. That
was in the requirements that the state gave to us. They gave us several classifications of cities may do the following. And one of those was may restrict the use and the sale except for specified times, may restrict their use and sale during times of stage 1 fire restrictions. The other is that we may require stores to post a sign explaining what the requirements are. In the past, we've been allowed to kind of word that sign the way that we felt was most appropriate for this area. What the state has now done is they have mandated what the wording will be on that sign. And the wording does not allow for notice that, yes, you could buy it today, but if we go into stage 1 tomorrow, you cannot use them. And so we have chosen not to require the stores to put that sign up because we feel it really does a disservice to the people who are purchasing those, that if they go in and they purchase them and they're not aware of a requirement about stage 1 restrictions, and that then gets enacted after they purchase those fireworks, they really received no notice. They were able to purchase them, but there was no notice that said, you know, if we go into stage 1, you cannot light these off. And so rather than, you know, have some confusion, we've just elected to not require that sign. If we were able to make modifications to that sign, that's probably something that we would do, is add that little note at the bottom. Unfortunately, we don't have that flexibility with the way that the law was written.
Yeah, because every city in town is the same, right?
Exactly.
Everybody operates the same.
Yeah.
So then how does that work with the fire department with regulating this and with the police department?
And we don't really have any type of regulating authority at all. We rely on the cities and towns. What we do is we provide the education for safety and things like that, you know, because, you know, it's one of those things, people want to do that, but it's like, do it safely and responsibly if it's allowable at the time. You know, so because we're the ones going to be transporting those victims that got injured or maimed because of something like this that goes wrong, or if they're using the wrong kinds of fireworks and things that are not allowed or illegal. So, and one of the things too is a lot of people don't realize that there's never any time that you can go out in the forest, which is federal land, and set these fireworks off. It's always illegal out there, regardless of time of year or whatever restrictions are in place. So people think that, oh, I can just go out in the middle of the forest and set these off, but there's huge implications that come with that, and Forest Service is being very serious about even unattended campgrounds. If we're going to fire into stage 1 restrictions and they find somebody that left a campground fire and not completely put out, they mandatorily have to go visit a federal judge. They will be cited and they will go see a federal judge. They're going to do the same thing with fireworks. So, so as far as the fire department is concerned, we don't want to see any fires. Mm-hmm. So we just want to educate and, you know, work with the cities, towns, and counties, and hopefully they'll enact such as how Show Low did with, you know, trying to limit the times and uses and sale even. Because if we go into those stage 1 restrictions, things get pretty scary.
Oh, absolutely.
Even right now, even though we're not in fire restrictions, we're still seeing little fires pop up. They're not traveling very far, but that doesn't mean that tomorrow it could change.
Oh, it's a split second from day to day up here on the mountain.
It's always, you know, we live on the edge of our seats, so to speak.
Yeah, and we who live here understand that.
Exactly.
It's the people who don't live here that don't understand it.
And even people that, you know, that live here locally, they try to get away with things. So it's not just the visitors coming up from out of the valley and areas like that thinking, oh, it's much cooler up here, so it's much safer. Fireworks are fireworks. They're inherently dangerous.
So come on, Kirk. Come on, buddy. Remember when we graduated high school together? You gotta let this slide.
I don't think so.
Well, that's good. And that's something that's happened in the last 2 years, I think, when they started cracking down on people who did have unattended campfires or who were caught burning stuff when they shouldn't have been, or their weeds. They started getting cited. And I remember, I think it was 2 years ago when they started, there was like 11 citations in 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden it dropped significantly because people are like, oh wow, we're getting in trouble for this. Yeah, where so long it was kind of like, oh come on, you know, don't do that. Now it's like, hey, it's a no tolerance policy, and I think that's awesome. And I'm sure that with the fireworks, like you explained, that's the same thing. You know, if you're outside of what it's telling you to do, we won't have any tolerance for it, because we do live in a beautiful area that we want to keep safe. And the last place in the world I would think that I would want to go light fireworks off is in the middle of the forest.
Right. Well, and people don't realize, because we still have our fireworks shows. I know City of Show Low, we work together very well with them and have a nice fireworks display. But people probably don't realize the amount of work and effort and safety that we put into that type of show. Over in Heber Overgaard, they have one as well. Same thing. We actually bring other people in that are off duty to cover with extra trucks, and we get areas where the fallout zone is going to be, and it's mowed prior to, wet down, all different kinds of things that take place, and people don't realize all the safety precautions that we put in, and we can actually even shut the fireworks down at a moment's notice if we feel it's not safe to do.
Oh yeah, I hate to say this, but it sucks. I remember doing that. It was fine-tooth comb of everywhere and taking people out, and then after the fireworks went off, it's sending people out into the forest to walk around within, you know, miles of where it happened, and it was just, it does go a lot, and then it takes the firefighters away from their families, because the 4th of July, instead of being with their family, they're lighting off fireworks. And I can say that now because I don't work for the fire department anymore. But it is beautiful for the community. They do get to enjoy it, and it is one of the best fireworks shows. They say Heber is good too, but I really personally think Show Low is the best.
Well, and those ones that are and we even issue a permit for those fireworks displays and special events such as that. So it's not something that we're not above the law or anything like that.
Do you go through the state fire marshal for that permit, or is it just you have the?
It's through an in-house with the working with the City of Show Low and the fire district, and there's a whole process in place to go through that. It's not just something that, oh, we can just go do this and you know, wherever and whenever and type of deal. So.
Well, I'm guessing, I know it could change any day, but it sounds like the 4th of July, just because of the season we've had, is pretty promising this year so far with the fireworks. I mean, getting them out there.
There's nothing that's right now we're looking at saying we're going to not have them.
Yeah, then usually
everything is on track. That. We're getting all the planning is happening now, and things are getting in place. We got in fact, it's on a Saturday this year, so nice big parade going on. So there's going to be a lot of activities, and you know, just go and enjoy the ones that are being provided for you instead of doing it out in your house and wondering if you're going to get caught.
Well, absolutely, and like you had said, there's so much setup and so much detail that goes into doing those. I guarantee people who buy the fireworks don't go around their house and make sure the weeds are cut down and make sure they have a hose. I mean, they don't even do that when they're burning trash, which they shouldn't be burning, in their front yard. Right. You know, it's definitely a safer atmosphere and a more fun atmosphere. I know that do they call it the Freedom Fest, or what is it that is that what it's called?
Freedom Fest, yeah.
That they have at the high school? And does that cost money, or it's free?
No. It doesn't cost money to the public to go to it, but it does cost the City of Show Low to put it on, of course. We purchase the fireworks and to have the emergency staff on hand and police on hand and stuff like that. But we feel it's a great event for the city. I mean, I'm expecting a record turnout this year. I don't know how Kurt feels because it's on a Saturday. It'll probably be record turnout. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
And in fact, is it an election year?
No, it's not.
We're off in election year, so this could be a really good, good parade, and hopefully we'll see some good entries.
Absolutely. And I did have another question. Just curious, where sparklers fall into those three categories you were talking to? Is that novelty or is that the other? Do you know?
Up until the most recent iteration, there was a little bit of, they were classified in two separate areas. Oh. And we chose to interpret that the most restrictive manner possible. Okay. Which meant that sparklers were not allowed. Under the newest version of the state statute, they've clarified that a little bit. Sparklers now fall under the classification of a novelty item, which means technically they are allowed. Does not mean that they're necessarily a good idea. And so we would certainly encourage people that if you're going to use any type of a novelty item, please do so responsibly. Just because the law says you can do it doesn't necessarily mean that you should do it. The temperatures and things that those sparklers run at, it's not uncommon to see, little kids running around with those, and it's very easy to cause either a serious injury to somebody or a serious loss of property due to a fire, a grassy field or something catching. Doesn't take very long for that to spread. So again, while they may be technically legal, we'd really encourage people to take a serious look at using those.
Just to be smart about it. And the reason I ask, I was at a wedding recently and they had sparklers there, but they had a bucket of water that they put them out in, and they were doing the little heart things, and which was more responsible, I think, especially with the bucket there. But that's the same thing if you have a campfire. Where's the bucket? Where's your shovel?
Well, and I think too, people don't realize if you modify these from what their original, how they were sold, now you classify, they can be classified differently than, because now you've modified what they were. And so that can potentially put that into a different category and where that enforcement becomes more strict.
Wow. Now, for more information about this, if people need to find more information, stores want to find more information, where should they go? What was the best place to get that?
Certainly encourage them to contact the Planning and Zoning Department. Okay. We're the ones that, with these ordinances that the city's enacted, kind of been one of the front runners with that. Phone number there would be 532-4040. Obviously any questions about fire restrictions, where we're at, burning requirements, that type of thing, would certainly ask, or encourage them to speak with the fire district directly.
And then another good number would be 311, correct?
Right. We use the 311, or if you go online, 311info.net. There's always information there, especially if there's any kind of current disaster or hazardous situation going on. That's our information hotline that goes through our emergency managers for both Apache and Navajo counties. So good information can be found there. Absolutely.
Perfect. Well, I can't thank you guys enough for coming on here and sharing this information, because it is a big change, and people have to get used to it now, and we want people to be safe when they do it and actually have the respect that they need for the places that we live in and we share. So thank you for coming on the show today, and thank you for watching Safe and Sound, and we'll see you next month. Have a happy 4th of July.